Welcome back. You're watching 101. We're speaking with the legendary singer and actor, Harry Belafonte. Harry, when you signed your first record contract with RCA, I think it was 1952, I presume that first album, Calypso, was really with the first million-selling album ever, and it was the real defining moment in your life, was it?
Yes, it was. It did. Beyond the success of the album itself and being the first, it spawned a huge interest globally in the route from where the music came from. Not only the geographical location, but it also became part of the folk music scene. And the folk music scene had not been quite in the front of American pop culture. It existed, people could find it, but it was the folk period that I was engaged in that did much to bring attention and the music to the forefront of popular culture.
And we should take people back to that time. I mean, in those early years, America was a very different place. You witnessed, Harlem, the way it was developing, the racial divides in America, as you've indicated, the civil rights movement, and your close friendship with Dr. Martin Luther King. I think very few people know you actually took out a pension to look after his family in case something happened to him. And I gather he didn't even know this. And you funded him and financed him because he was really not very financially empowered. A lot of things like this, when you look back on it, well, certainly that relationship with Martin Luther King, how much did it influence you, and how close was your bond with him?
I would have to say that it's probably the single most impacting influence in my life. He was 2 years younger than I when we met, and he was 24 and I was 26, and we endured in a very, very close relationship for 13, 14 years. A day didn't go by where we did not talk. I was one of his advisors, became very much a part of a small circle of people whom he brought on to help plan strategy. I poured enormous resources into the movement, not just his own welfare and the welfare of his family, but for bail, for bailing men out of prison, for putting up money for trial lawyers, and for funding people who are on the move, getting buses, helping to stimulate and to pay for social resistance, all the marches, to recruit many of the great artists of the day who came in the height of their celebrity to support us. Was my task to find those artists, to instruct them and to give them counsel, to help them understand what they could expect, and to protect them when I thought there may be things that might violate either their image or their own sense of worth. So the tasks were varied. The most difficult aspect of it was, of course, negotiating with the White House and with Bobby Kennedy. I was very close to the Kennedy. Not in the beginning, we had some belligerencies. I was with the movement. They were most resistant to the movement. They thought we were a huge obstacle and something that had to be gotten out of the way. But we persisted. And since they couldn't get us out of the way, they began talking to us. And one of the people they had to talk to with some great regularity was yours truly. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's ironic, and then you ended up in the movie Bobby, about Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah.
You played a part so many years on. Did you ever dream, and it's a shame, of course, Dr. Martin Luther King was not here to say it, but did you ever dream that you would witness America's first black president?
No, I didn't. As a matter of fact, as much as that was part of the grand design, one of the ways in which we could measure the health and the growth and the moral development of this country would be when we one day had a black president, and even more intensely, a black woman president. But none of us felt that that would be forthcoming. We felt we'd almost fill all the other capacities at some point. But president would have been held out to us. And to see it happen was for us a great reward, certainly in my lifetime.
Interestingly enough, Frank Sinatra then recruited you to be one of the entertainers at the inaugural gala of John F. Kennedy.
Yes.
As well. Now, you yourself have also introduced a lot of artists to the international community. You brought in wonderful, obviously famous in their own environment. You brought them to a world audience. Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masekela, and I gather there was a young Bob Dylan playing harmonica on one of your albums, the first recording.
Yes, yes.
What do you recall of that time? What were they like back then, those artists?
Well, back then it was just, I was rampant with success. And to be able to find people like Miriam Makeba, who came from Africa, to be able to sing with Odetta, who was buried in the womb of American folk music, to give her a larger platform, to have Huey Masekela and Jonas Gwengwa, and a wonderful Greek artist by the name of Nana Mouskouri.
I know her, yeah.
I brought her to America, and I delighted in this diversity of international art and culture being on the American stage.
She became the biggest selling female artist, actually.
In the history of the record business, Nana Mouskouri is the largest selling ever.
I know, amazing.
And I take some pride in that.
Now, by the time you left RCA and your output of music went down considerably in the 1970s and 80s, what was it that made you step back?
I stepped back because there just wasn't the opportunity to compete on a level playing field. Rock and roll became so intensely pervasive that there was hardly a niche for anybody who was not coming along with that music. Almost all the artists that I knew, including Bob Dylan, all had to shift from where they were as a folk artist and having a folk identity. They all went into some form, soft rock, hard rock, big rock. Even young people like Bruce Springsteen coming along, who started as a folk bass, wound up being one of the most powerful forces in rock and roll. And I was particularly rooted in the music of the third world. The sounds of my music, the lyrics, all pertain to the experiences of that world. And there wasn't much of a marketplace for it. What I was able to keep together quite successfully and inordinately was a large audience. My audiences globally never diminished. I peaked at 30,000 citizens per night, and every time I performed in Germany, Europe, wherever, that was the number. In the United States, I would do between 12 and 15,000 people a night, and they just stayed loyal. They didn't need the record. They didn't need to see me with any great frequency. They would have liked to on television. And then I went more deeply into the film business.
That's right. You did a fair amount of acting. How did you like the acting?
I loved it. It was what I started out to do. Right. So I had a chance to come back to it.
One of these days, one of those knocks are going to be for me. But so what? Sooner or later, everybody got to go. Some sooner than others. And who's to say when that is? In your case, I do.
You've been a UNICEF, actually, Goodwill Ambassador, for more than 20 years now. And it's another feather in your cap of activism and all the social humanitarian work you do. Do you get to see the results? Do you feel that you actually see the results of all the work you've done up to all this time?
Absolutely. For one to suggest that in all the things that I've been engaged in had never shown any results would be truly a misleading point of view, and somebody who would probably be up to some mischief. The fact of the matter is that everything we touched, everything I touched that had to do with human welfare abounded in enormous victories and successes.
You've often had anger against the political system and a great distaste for government and authority, the way it's run, but you somehow remain an optimist. What keeps you optimistic?
Because my deep belief in America, I profoundly believe in what our nation is about. It's a curious, curious place, and it has magic in it. And I think fundamentally our citizens are great citizens. And what makes that citizenship so great is its diversity. To have so many people and so many levels of human existence coming with thought and ideas and protection for it, and how we pollinate and learn from one another. There's no other country in the world that's like us. And to have gone through what we went through, and to this day demonstrate that nobility of citizenship by voting for a man like Barack Obama, who came in with a rather sober platform and has promised to do things that are not the usual. I think that makes a great difference. And that's why I feel very positive about what can be achieved.
Now, God bless your 8 decades plus of existence on this planet. What's left there for you to do? What are the outstanding projects?
more of the same.
Now, again, an unfair question for someone of your stature, Harry, but if you had a legacy you wanted to leave behind, if there's a way you would like people to remember you, what would it be?
There's more reason for us to be caring and approving of one another than there is not. I think most people look at difference as something to be cautioned about, to be cautious, to be fearful of. And my position is, no, embrace it. You'll find that there are rewards beyond imagination. For us to come together in a true brotherhood, the very same things that Dr. King and Eleanor Roosevelt and others have wanted is what it's about. That's where life resides at its best.
Well, I wish you more power and long life. Harry Belafonte, thank you very much.
And I wish you the opportunity to review me more often.
I hope so.